If you've been eagerly anticipating Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, then you've almost surely cemented your build by now. But here's the thing, Shadow of the Erdtree adds 8 new weapon types to the game, each of them bringing brand new ways to approach combat. And so, to help you figure out how each of those new weapon types work, we're here to demonstrate their movesets and provide some recommendations to make the most out of their unique strengths. Remember that this DLC is endgame content, so if we name an accessory from the base game that you don't already have, consult our wiki on IGN for help tracking it down. You can get the first new weapon type right out of the gate. It's called the Beast Claw, and as its name implies, it's a fierce way to quickly scratch at your opponents with slashing damage. To get it, head east as soon as you enter the gravesite plain. An NPC named Loger the Beast Claw is wandering here, and he will attack you on sight. As you can probably guess, beating him means unlocking his titular weapon. The Beast Claw comes with a default Ash of War called Savage Claws, which unleashes a flurry of attacks. That's a solid choice, but you could also tack on some elemental damage with other Ashes of War like Flaming Strike, Thunderbolt, Hoarfrost Stomp, or Shriek of Sorrow. In terms of talismans, you want to be able to overwhelm your opponent with attacks. Think of the Beast Claw like a rushdown character in a fighting game. A Viridian Amber Medallion will give you more stamina to keep attacking. Winged Sword Insignia raises your damage with each successive swipe, and the Twin Blade Talisman is great for empowering your final attack in the combo. You might also consider the Godskin Swaddling Cloth, which will let you heal with every single swipe. The Backhand Blade is a tricky one for your enemies. The reverse grip means you can attack at unconventional angles, and the default Blind Spot Ash of War lets you dart to the side before whipping around to attack from behind. The first one, simply titled Backhand Blade, can be found northeast of where the DLC starts, beyond the Scorched Ruins. There's a small mausoleum here surrounded by Scadutree Guardians. Fight past them to grab it inside the structure. Blind Spot is a great Ash of War, but you can be even more speedy and sneaky with Blink Bolt, a new addition in Shadow of the Erdtree. This teleports you forward with a burst of lightning, enough to confuse enemies in PvE and PvP. The ash is found inside Fog Rift Catacombs, a dungeon located in the foggy canyon just northwest of Castle Ensis. Proceed to the lowest floor. This room with the crushing ceiling in 3 big sections. Once you reach the other side of the room, use the railing to hop into the small cutout inside the crusher. Then do a 180 to spot a hidden chest in the ceiling that contains the Ash of War. As for talismans, anything that increases the favored stats of the Backhand Blade is the way to go. This includes the Star Scourge Heirloom and even Marika's Sore Seal, if you want to risk the increased damage. Great Katanas, aka Odachi, are like the great swords of katanas. In other words, they're bigger. They swing slower as a result, but they still get the same bleed buildup you expect from this family of swords. The first one you can get, which is just called the Great Katana, is in the middle of a lake at the northern edge of the gravesite plain. Just be prepared to face a ghost flame dragon guarding it. The Great Katana has a special ability to switch into an overhead stance thanks to its default Ash of War, and we actually recommend you stick with that because of how it plays into the recommended talismans. One is the Axe Talisman, found in the base game. The other 2 are in Shadow of the Erdtree. Rellana's cameo enhances attacks after maintaining a stance, like the overhead one that comes with Great Katanas. It's found in Castle Ensis. After facing the knight named Moonrathiel, proceed forward into the chapel they were guarding. The talisman is on the altar inside. The other is the Two-Handed Sword Talisman, which boosts attacks with two-handed weapons like this. You'll have to fight your way through the Templetown ruins at the Rao Ruins base to get it. Once a simple thrown item you could craft, the Perfume Bottle is now a full-fledged weapon. You can get the Fire Spark Perfume Bottle specifically once you cross the Elak Bridge and enter the Mesmer soldier camp there. It's guarded by some perfumers immediately east on the other side. This little thing lets you whirl around with flashy AoE fire attacks, lighting up enemies and burning whole mobs that get too close. Its default Ash of War is a simple kick, which, while it does throw enemies off balance, really isn't very fun. We recommend swapping it out for something with a wider area of effect, like Ground Slam, Beast Roar, or Storm Stomp. Talismans aren't going to take you too far with this one, but the Fire Scorpion charm will enhance your fire damage. You can also boost your literal firepower with magic. Flame Grant Me Strength is your best bet there. If you want to attack from a distance with the new weapon types, the only choice is a Throwing Blade. Think of these like infinite daggers, letting you deal piercing damage from afar. To get the Smith Script Dagger, an early throwing blade, you'll need to enter the Ruined Lava Forge intake. Proceed until you lower the lava pipe, then hop down to the next ledge. Defeat the Forge Golem here, then grab the dagger off a corpse. Throwing blades have a default Ash of War called Piercing Throw. It lets you chuck the dagger farther and pierce right through foes to hit more targets. The thing is, your enemies are rarely ever lined up for you. Instead, swap in some elemental damage like we recommended for the Beast Claw. Flaming Strike, Thunderbolt, Hoarfrost Stomp, and Shriek of Sorrow are some possibilities. As for talismans, there's a new one in the DLC that was made with throwing blades in mind. It's called the Smithing Talisman, and it enhances your thrown weapon attacks. Honestly, it's a must-have for this build. You can find it inside the Forge of Starfall Past. The dungeon entrance is here, and once you reach this room with a ramp of rubble and a magma flow to your left, you're close. Head up that ramp, then take a left in the next room to spot some loot inside this hallway. Watch for falling magma blobs, then pick the talisman off the corpse in the back. Next up, light greatswords. As the name implies, these are smaller versions of a greatsword that have the same reach, but with a trade-off of higher damage for more speed. If this weapon type had been around in the base game, it probably would have been what Millennia used. Speaking of bosses, defeating R'Lana in Castle Ensis and using her Remembrance in Round Table Hold can get you her specific light greatsword. But if you don't want to use it on that, you can find another at the start of the same Legacy dungeon. After the Troll Knight fight, bear left. Then make a U-turn before entering the cave. Along the ramparts here is a tower, and a light greatsword called Milady is in a chest up there. Light greatswords start with the Impaling Thrust Ash of War. Again, it's decent, but we can really take it up a notch. For more Millennia vibes, equip Double Slash or Sword Dance. You can also tack on some elemental damage. One of the most fun is Flame Spear, which you'll acquire near the top of Shadow Keep, after defeating one final Mesmer Fire Soldier. With that, you can char your enemies from afar. We also have to mention Wing Stance, another new Ash of War that was made specifically for light greatswords. Like Milady, you can find it at Castle Ensis. From the Castle Lord's Chamber site of Grace just before the R'Lana fight, step out onto the balcony. From here you can safely drop down to an outdoor area, and at the end of this outcropping is a tower. Climb the ladder inside to reach the roof, where you'll find a chest containing the Wing Stance. Once equipped, you can hold out your arm, then time your attacks for a nasty 3-hit combo that would once again make Millennia proud. Equip R'Lana's cameo from before to take this combo further, since that talisman is meant to go with stance attacks. This one was teased during the Erdtree trailer with a flying kick. Hand to hand, aka martial arts, is a flashy, unarmed combat style that feels oh so fresh in the world of Elden Ring. But first you have to learn how to do it. After Castle Ensis, you'll emerge on Scadu Altus near the High Road Cross site of Grace. Here you can find the monk's missive and a new gesture called May the Best Win. The missive speaks of a dueling monk located to the east, so head in that direction to find the Morth Ruins site of Grace, right next to the landmark of the same name. Standing by this checkpoint is Dryleaf Dane, a monk who can teach you his techniques, but first you'll have to face him. Use the May the Best Win gesture to initiate a duel, and upon winning the fight, you'll unlock the Dryleaf Arts. There's all sorts of haymakers, jabs, and kicks that go along with this martial art, and the default Ash of War is a powerful Palm Blast. Honestly, you should just keep that equipped for style points. But if you really want to change things up, the aforementioned Blink Bolt fits in nicely with the quick-moving style of these attacks. As for talismans, there's something about being technically unarmed that leaves us wanting more defense, so consider things like the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman for physical resistance and the Pearl Drake Talisman for everything elemental. Finally, we have Dueling Shields, and these might be the last new toy you get your hands on. You can find a Dueling Shield in Shadow Keep when you reach the Specimen Storehouse. Climb the first set of stairs to the highest balcony, then look for a ledge to the east where you can hop the railing. Tucked away back here is a corpse holding the shield. Using one of these can feel clunky at first, but they offer a potent combination of attack and defense. Two-handing them is the best way to go, letting you slap around your enemies with both ends of your weapon. The default Ash of War is another unexciting one. It's just a piercing thrust. Better options include shield-specific ashes like Shield Crash and Barricade Shield, to shove enemies around or buff your defense even more, respectively. In this case, the two-handed sword talisman also fits nicely. It has sword in the name, but it's meant for all two-handed weapons. If you're going full turtle, you can use the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman or Pearl Drake Talisman again, or try on the Great Shield Talisman to specifically enhance your guarding. All of these new weapon types ought to enhance your Elden Ring experience one way or another. Try mixing and matching them too. Most of them play great when wielded in one hand or the other. For more tips and tricks on getting the most out of Shadow of the Erdtree, keep it locked at IGN.